Welcome back, ladies, gentlemen, and gamers, to another episode of 12 Days of Building. And it's day 9. We're working on some style tips. It's crazy to me that we're already at this point. But we're going to be looking at 3 main styles that I find it to be both common to use, but also difficult to accomplish. Now, to set some rules to make sure that you guys understand that this is not going to be a 2-hour-long episode, we're only working on the exterior, no terraforming, and we're not going into extreme detail. No armor stand tricks, no sign tricks. By the way, I did change this back. Just the bare minimums of what is needed to accomplish this style. And the 3 houses we're going to be going on, and the main feature we need to focus on is Japanese houses, which the main feature to make a house look Japanese is the roof and the way it's shaped. The Tudor house, which is all about the shape and the way the second story kind of fits it, and then Hispanic style houses, which is shape and variation. And we're going to be starting with the Tudor house. Now, we are going for a very basic Tudor house. So let's get our framing set up, and we're going to be going, it's not going to have amazing shape because that's the way a Tudor house is. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, dupe. That's a good gap for me, and it's a 11 wide, so let's go 7 back. 7 would do good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, dupe. And here. Next, we're going to pop in the middle points of each, which will be there, correct? 5 and 5. All right. We're not going to do it for the front yet. Next, we're going to literally just fill it in, except for where the door will be. So I'll catch you guys back when I have this filled in and brought up to a proper height. All right, and here we go. Now, there's going to be a picture on the side of the screen right about now that shows you guys the reference I'm going off of. This is not the reference tutorial, but I thought you guys should see what I use to be able to understand how to do this style of building. And so we're just going to go around and fill all these in to solidify our first floor. So once we have those in, we're going to also put in some supports in the front that frame the doors. So keep those nice and even. That's why I picked 11. It fits well because there's 2 blocks, 2 blocks, 2 blocks, 2 blocks. Now what we're going to do is on each of these posts, go out a single block. So something just like this. Imagine that this goes right through it. And these ones also for good measure. Once that is done, take on top of these and go up the distance you want your second floor to be. And once we have that all done, I'm just going to do this one wall to show you guys. Fill it right on up, all these gaps, with a white block. And let's add a little bit of variation so you guys can see the differences these have. And personally, I think the bone block's the best because it adds a little bit of texture. The white concrete powder also works fairly well for this, but the bone block has that right feel. And this starts bringing out the Tudor effect in the house. Another way to do this is if you inlay these also. You're able to accomplish a good result. So something along these lines. The key is that you have depth here, and this comes out by a block. So even something like this, where there is no depth and there's connected textures, it fits very well with the reference that we have. So I'm going to do this style the rest of the way around instead of having these poke out. All right. All right. All right. And as you can see, I just did the same thing I did down here, right on top here, and it's starting to look like a Tudor house. Now, the key with a Tudor house, though, is that it has windows. So pop those in, and they're normally not the same size, actually. It's kind of just what is needed for the space. So add a little bit of variety, change it up, and maybe one here. And that's normally how a Tudor house is. And I know it's not the most attractive way to be able to build, but it's accurate as to how it's built. So after this, they have a very, I would say, bland roof style. So resting on these, just go right on across, and for your corners, as simple as can be, And you're going to take these and literally just go right on up with them. 45 degrees all the way up on every side till they all meet in the middle. So I'm going to do that for you guys and show you what it looks like. All right? All right. All right. And this is the basics of a Tudor house. It's a very, very bland 45-degree roof, and it comes up to a elongated peak, I guess you would say. But another feature of them is the fact that they are always wood heated. They always have a furnace of some sort. So actually the best way to do this is go up to the top, figure out where you want it to be, which should be on the inside of the house. Find the middle and just fall right through to the bottom. Put down your, I guess in this case you would call it a stovetop, not a stovetop, what's the word? It's your chimney, the bottom of your chimney, your fireplace. So pop that all in. If you want, you can put a netherrack and an actual fire if you want, but if you don't have fire tick off, it won't work. So going up from here, we're able to simply, and I like to do something a little bit decorative with these, something that you don't always see. So something along those lines, bring it right on up. That looks good to me. Couple of these, couple of slabs, and if you want, you can make a smoke effect coming out of that. But that's the basics for a Tudor house. You can make that wider if you want, taller, but that's the basics. And traditionally they are rectangular, but if you wanted to make it so maybe there was a portion of it, like this side of it stuck out a little farther, you can do that. It's your world, do what you want, but I'm showing the basics of these. Next, we're going to move on to the Japanese style house, which is fairly similar, but I'll show you the key differences. All right, so we're going to make this slightly smaller because we are working within, this is a 21 by 21 box, if I'm correct. So let's have the house start here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let me see if that's enough space for us to work with. We're going to make that a 9. And going back, it's going to be a 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and right about there. That looks good to me. Japanese houses and we're talking a modest house here. We're not going over the top. A modest house is something along these lines. Now, in Minecraft, depth looks good, but if you want to go realistic, there wouldn't be much depth, but we want it to look good. We're in Minecraft. We're taking some liberties. We're not trying to replicate the photo. That's what the working from reference will be later in this series. It's actually the last day of this series, day 12. So don't put in a ton of these, just have it be right on the corners, nowhere else, and fill this up with a dark block. I'm going with wood because it's what it would actually be made out of, but if you want to go with something else, go for it. So I'm going to fill this right on up to the top of the first story, and I'll catch you back when I'm done. All right, and this is a general resemblance of a Japanese house. And one of the things that they have is they use thin supports on the outside of the wraparound porch that they traditionally have to support the roof that's actually resting on these. But we'll be getting to that in a moment. One of the also key features is that they are similar to a Tudor house where they have two shades, a light and a dark, for a traditional Japanese home. So we're going to use quartz just because it has a little bit of texture, but it's very, very white as they would normally have on the top of their floors and something like that. It's almost like a trim block. Think of it as that. Then from there, we're going to need to basically shape the roof. Now, a traditional Japanese roof, as we know, well, as you might know, is normally tiled. It's a very unique metal tile that goes around it. And Minecraft doesn't have a block that really suits that, but it's a very dark color. So focus on the dark. And for stairs, dark oak is pretty much the darkest color we have. So if you're building on a very large scale, you can replicate that if you're doing a mega structure. But otherwise, this is where you're going to be in building this. So I'm going to bring this roof up to a decent height, similar to how we did the Tudor style, but then we're going to modify it thereafter. So I'll catch you back when I have that done. All right, now it does look quite boring, I will admit, but one of the things that we have to do first is we got to bring these up all the way. Now this is mostly for the interior because the exterior will be covered up, but it's still important to get in while we easily can. Now another feature of Japanese roofs is the way that they're supported from the underside. They have a unique system, and I think the best way to describe it is to show it. They have something that looks similar to this, and let me get a few of these in here so I can show you. They have almost bars sticking through, and our little sign trick that I showed you earlier would work pretty well if they were able to be different colored signs. But this is traditionally how they do it. So if you just go along and figure out how to be able to place these and go right on around for these corners, it's kind of up to you the way you do it. You want to avoid that though. So traditionally it is best to just continue something like that. And I think we're going to run into issues no matter what we do here. But that actually works for me. Another option is, of course, to just simply go like that, because the corner doesn't need as much support because it has this massive log holding it up. But this is what they would normally do, is they have this kind of support structure like this, and I'm going to continue on placing these in, and I'll catch you back when I'm done. Now, another feature of Japanese roofs is they accent these corners here. They bring attention to them. So the best way to do that, in my opinion, is just to replace these with blocks. It changes the shape, it draws in the attention. And then for this part here, all I did was simply wrap around a few like this, put in a slab to have it be more noticed, then a full slab and a block. And on a small scale, it's not the best. Honestly, you can get rid of these as well. It would still work, but it's still on a small scale. It's best on large scales. So I'm going to copy this to the back too, and then we'll continue talking about how this roof shape is really done and done well. One of the final features to make a roof good for a Japanese setting is find out about where these end. So it's right around there. If we make a bit of a hole here or something along these lines, and then shape it, we're going to go like this and add a small window here. Now, once again, this is easier to do and see on a large scale, but if you see by the picture, it is basically accomplished this way, is that they have this effect. And they traditionally just have it like that, or they'll have it set back in by a block. It's not for windows, it's just for a general aesthetic. Another way you can accentuate this is to push it back by another block and add in some slabs or a full block. This will make it so it has that shape even better, or even some stairs. But if you use stairs, you got to change the back blocks, which without the depth is not really an option with what we're going for. But something along those lines, and then to accent them, you're able to change this block if you would like to something slightly different, or change the whole shape of this. I mean the whole texture of this, the different blocks. But something like that really adds to it. Now, something else we're able to do really quick is the sliding paper doors that are traditionally found in Japan. In Minecraft currently, it's difficult to do, but once the birch trap doors are entered in, it's going to be very easy. But for now, this is what we have, and it works fairly well. Now, the birch trap doors have a lot more paper, and it looks actually very Japanese. So that's basically what you have to do for a Japanese style house. For the environment on this thing though, I want you to remember, in Japan, houses are very, very close together. So it's an old country. They didn't set up a grid system like they have in a lot of newer countries and newer cities. So make it, the houses all wonky next to each other, all weird shapes. But next we have to work on a Hispanic house. Now this is a very fun way to build because orange terracotta is the only block you will need for a majority of it until you get to the texturing. So this is where the general shaping is really put to the limit. So let's go 5, for our base right here. And from here, if you look at the reference here, we're not copying the reference, we're not trying to duplicate it. We're trying to be inspired by what it is. So let's move out by, what is that, 5 blocks? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this now will become that little overhang that you see on the screen there. And we'll go right across like here. And maybe this one is not the full length of it. Actually, let's leave those there for when we do the second floor. They have a circular kind of structure sometimes. So if we take this and do a 3x3 circle, it is something along these lines. Yep, that's right. And then it would be there, and then across. Yep. So something along that. Let's go to the back here. We can't see the back in the photo, but let's bring this out by a little bit. And we're going to bring this shape up, and we'll talk about the second floor where a lot of the variety comes in. All right, now that we have that up, we're able to modify this a little bit. So let's do something like that, and we'll have it like that, a little rounded. Now, we're going to have to use our imagination a little bit because it's Minecraft and it is a small structure that we're building, but something along these lines. And we're able to accentuate that by when we bring it up, do something like this, and maybe cut off the height of these. Then here and here. Is that right? That is a circle in Minecraft. Then we're able to bring this up further. And we're just going to stick to the general shape here. And that will be a good basis for our second floor. Let's have the circle also end here, but maybe this back section will continue up as well. I'm going to fill in that second floor, and then we're going to talk about the roofs. All right, and there we go. So what we're going to do for this is we're going to accentuate our original roof here. Well, it's not technically our original, but our main roof here. We're going to accentuate that by bringing that up by another block. And we're going to fill this in now. Now, the roofs are pretty straightforward and simple for the most part. But they have a unique feature to them, which is that they're built traditionally out of clay bricks, basically, but not in the standard sense where we think of clay bricks like something like bricks. And it's mud, clay bricks, all that stuff. And the way they hold it together when building is that they have a lot of sticks normally going through. So one way to really accomplish that is with buttons and with signs. So let's grab some of each of these. Now, with the button design, it's very simply, little lag spike there, just like this. And it adds the feel that this is the roof. It shows that these were the sticks poking through it, and it's nice and simple. Another alternative, which is a little bit more difficult to pull off because you do need one that's flat or you need a piece that pokes out, is a sign. Oh. Need to hold shift to be able to place these. I forgot about that. And something along these lines, we don't need that one. But the issue is you kind of have to have them all there. So buttons are a much safer way to go about this. It's a lot easier on you. So I recommend doing that if you are struggling with this. But if you're able to find a way to make the signs work, make them work. They will go a long way for you. And remember that when it comes to something like this is a circle part, put the buttons in anyway. So this alone does a lot of work for it. Here where you can't put buttons, I suggest doing something along those lines. And this is looking like a traditional Hispanic house. Now for the doors, we're on a corner here. And the best way to do that, we're not going to fill in the floor on this one. Acacia doors fit very well for the theming. Something just like that. Now to be able to add in the windows, it is still very simple. You need to have a window pane. It could be orange or anything that really matches the build palette, and just plop those in. And if there's an issue like this one, just fill it in like so, and then worry about the inside later if you need it to worry about the inside. If you don't. One of the things I haven't told you guys is if you don't have to worry about the interior, don't worry about the interior. So you also need to think when you're building houses and the styles is, why are they shaped the way they are? And I've saved this to the last to be able to explain and think through it. And why are they built the way they are? So in Hispanic cultures, there isn't much rain. Just in the, for instance, Mexico or the Latin American countries, there isn't a lot of rain and there isn't snow. So you don't need a curved roof to help the snow fall off. So that's why they're normally shaped like this. And the main resource available is like mud bricks and things like that, because the sun can dry them out pretty quickly and it's very easy to use. Tudor houses are for the lower class. This is traditionally made out of hay, stubble, things like that, mixed with mud to be able to hold it together. This is anything that they can really get, and traditionally stone was very easy, white stone. They framed it up to be able to hold it all together. It's a standard roof, and the chimney here is to heat the house. That's the purpose of it. It's not decorative. It's not to make it look nice. That's why it's built like this. Japanese style homes, in that culture, you would normally take your shoes off before you went inside. So something like this or a little foyer on the inside is what would assist that. The reason why it's up here is so you don't have to put on your outdoor shoes to go outside and get some air. The roof is shaped like this because, first of all, it snows in Japan. Something like this in the very front of it will make it so the snow will fall down into the sides and not land right in front of where they'll be walking. Sure, there'll still be some, but not as much. And it's just to make things easier on them. And a lot of the spiritual things in Japan make it so that this porch is a feature in a lot of homes in Japan. So keeping those things in mind can really help you design your house. And I hope you've learned how to do some styling from this. Yes, they are all very simplistic. That's just a dark wood mess. But I hope you guys understood the principles you need to be able to do this. And I'll catch you back here tomorrow. We're going to be talking about reusable homes designs. How to make it so that one house can fill your city and help you do what you need to do. So catch me back tomorrow. All right.